I'll sit here. It's fine.
No, I know. You can just look at it and you can see the slides. You don't have to move.
Now I gotta figure out where it went.
Brad, where were you gonna? So I'm gonna be in the middle, and we'll be on either side of you. Brad, yeah.
Yeah.
No audio has an audio. No, it doesn't.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
If by any chance you stop seeing us, it's because of the weather here. We have so many lightnings and rain. So we are praying for a full hour and 8 minutes without losing power. No, I just made up the number. I don't know, maybe. So please join us as we have been singing since we started. Hine matov u'manayim. How good it is that all of us are together, physically, virtually, but still together, celebrating Shabbat. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim. What a week we had. Thank God for Shabbat. You know, I thought about the song of Dayenu from the Agada, just in reverse. If we only had a pandemic that seriously threatens our life, our health, that would have been enough to make us anxious. But we also got the economic fears that come with this pandemic. And that would have been more than enough to make us feel worried. But this week, or the last 10 days, we had the murder of George Floyd that was added to a long list of brown and black people who were killed by the police. That would have been enough, but we also had the protests, the riots, the looting, the violence. And I think that's too much. We're going to pray. We're going to talk, to learn, to listen. So let's continue with the prayer of Olam Chesed Ibaneh. This time we don't ask God to do it for us, because this is our job to build a different world. And I believe that when we start building a world of love, of compassion, of acceptance, God will help us. God will be with us. Olam chesed ibaneh,
We continue with the words of Lachadodi as we welcome the Sabbath bride. Sanctuary, to our homes, to whatever room we're in, as we welcome in the Sabbath bride.
This week gives us so many reasons to complain, but now it's time to think about gratitude. So if you shared with us something good that happened to you in the past week, hopefully we will be able to get the message and share it with all of you.
Simcha Berg is thankful for our beautiful community. Very thankful for our beautiful community too. So we declare in the morning. Lehagim b'boker avdecha. Lehagim b'boker avdecha. Emunatcha b'leilos, emunatcha b'leilos. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. We welcome the angels of Shabbat with the words of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashem, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Malachei Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzvitchem leshalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu meshabbat kodsho be'ava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh
בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים לשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
L'chaim. 5 years ago on Yom Kippur, I gave a sermon about the killing of so many black people by the police. Some of you liked the message, some of you didn't. As a result, I had fascinating conversation with so many of you. Today, if I were to give the shortest sermon in the history, I would have titled it, "What had changed since?" The answer is nothing. Despite all the rallies and speeches and promises and having the first African American president, nothing had changed. So initially, I was planning to give another sermon until I realized that that would not be the right thing to do. Sometimes you don't talk, you listen. The most important verb in the Bible, and we all know it, is Shema, as in Shema Israel. God tells us, listen. And we are so bad in listening. We love to talk. We love to express our opinions. We have to learn to listen. So what we're going to do today, we're going to listen to two stories that are told by black woman and a black man. I'll introduce them momentarily. They're not politicians, they're no leaders, they're not famous writers, just people like you and I. But we also need to talk. So instead of me preaching to you for 17 minutes, I would like to invite you for a discussion on Tuesday night at 6 p.m., because I heard that some of you work and do not really like the 3 p.m. Time when we have classes. So Tuesday at 6 p.m., let's have a discussion, a very honest discussion that we must have, which will include the relationship between the Jewish community and the black community. We're going to talk about the organization of Black Lives Matter vis-a-vis Israel. We're going to talk about riots and looting versus just protests that are silent and quiet. We're just really going to learn to think, to listen, and to talk. But that's Tuesday. Today, we're going to listen. So first, I would like to ask Marcy to read for us a short thing that Yaffe Newman wrote. What makes Yaffe Newman a good teacher for us today is that she happened to be a black, Jewish, Orthodox woman. And she tells a little story that teaches us so much.
I'll never forget when I saw my father's silhouette frozen in the rain that dark night. "Sir, what are you doing here?" "I'm sorry?" "Sir, what are you doing on this property?" "I live here, officer. I own this house." Please step out toward the police vehicle with your hands out. Officer, may I ask what for? I'm standing on my property. Step away from the house now. The policeman's hand went to his holster. I watched my father stiffen, arms up, take a step away from the house he spent years saving to be able to buy, and very slowly open his mouth to speak. Officer, please keep your voice down. My 7-year-old daughter is sleeping inside. I do not want to wake her to wake up to this. I'm going to need to see some identification. My father's ID is handed over to the officer. Officer, I have been a member of this Jewish community for over 20 years. I can get the rabbi of the community on the phone if that will convince you that I am indeed the homeowner here. Would you like me to do that? Sir, step away from the house. My mother rushes to the door due to all of the yelling. She's panicked and sees me watching through the rain-soaked window. She begs me to go to bed and begins to plead with the officer to please lower his voice. She tells him I am awake, listening, and terrified. Other cars driving by start slowing down in front of our house, and the officer turns back and disappears into his car and leaves, gun in hand all the while. My father followed up with the police report. The officer had not been called to our residence. The dispatch didn't receive any complaints. The officer was on patrol and saw a black man outside our home and decided he might be dangerous and was somewhere he didn't belong because of the color of his skin. This was many years ago, but that night is still very much alive in my memory. My father died last month from a long battle with cancer. He was a proud black man, incredibly proud of the contributions that the black community made to America. He was connected to his African heritage and culture. He was on a city council dedicated to the advancement of black community, and he personally created many programs to support black youth. But he was painfully honest about what it meant to be black in America. He told us endless stories of growing up with brown skin during the 40s, 50s, and the civil rights movement of the 60s. He told us about unprovoked beatings in the streets, other times being assumed a criminal because of the color of his skin. These stories were the bedrock of my childhood, my bedtime stories, my warnings, the legacy of my father felt he needed to teach me so that I could navigate life in America as a black woman. I learned about the abolishment of slavery and the ending of segregation at home from my father, who began teaching me at such a young age. Every day I sang at school with my peers about the land of the free and the home of the brave, and so I thought my father's scary stories were history and wouldn't affect my lifetime. But that night in the rain, seeing how others could see my dad stole my innocence. That night in the rain forced me to become the hardened little girl, and then young woman, and now adult, forced to shoulder a burden that's often invisible to the Jewish community, a beautiful community in which I was born and raised. The love and acceptance I felt there helped shape a huge part of who I am. Still, there were places in my life where I had to quietly swallow the racist moments and microaggressions that were a part of the fabric of my existence. I have built a beautiful life, but it's an ongoing process. There is a hum that's always in the background. Feeling alone despite being part of a community that I love. Feeling unseen when some people only see the color of my skin. Feeling unheard because it's hard to hear what I'm sharing, but I'm sharing now. Hoping that the noise won't drown out my personal experience and what it means for me. One day, I hope I am blessed to have children, and they might look just like me. It will break my heart to have to impart my father's real-life nightmares to another generation. While praying, they only have sweet dreams. And when they wake, I will make sure that they know the legacy of my father, who was proud to be Jewish and Black. I know I will be raising them to be the same.
Thank you. I believe that as every Jewish person, at least people who live outside of Israel, experience incidents of anti-Semitism, each and every Black and brown person can relate to this story as a different version or many different versions of the story we just heard. We continue now with the evening prayer, with the call to worship, Baruch Hu. If you follow the choreography of the service, this is the time to rise. We're about to continue with the prayer of Shema Israel, the prayer of listening. Before we say this prayer, We normally take a deep breath in. Let's do it. And we breathe out. And we breathe in and out. In the morning, we have this beautiful prayer. Aloha neshama shenatata bi tehora hi. God, the breath that you have given me is pure. And we pray that nobody besides God will ever be in a position to take our breath away from us. So let's continue to breathe in and out. And this time, just listen. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
A prayer for George Floyd by Rabbi Naomi Levy. Do what? Nothing happens? Okay. Innocent blood is calling out God, echoing through the universe. We must ask ourselves, what have we done? What have we ignored, allowed, denied, excused? But today we shed our excuses in a time of soul searching. We take this pledge for our black brothers and sisters and for you, God. I am my brother's keeper. And I will change my heart, change the laws, and change the unwritten law that says the way it's always been is the way it will always be. I will do my part to uproot hatred, prejudice, and racism. I will speak out against police brutality and a system of justice that is unjust. I will vote our leaders who do not lead, and together we will unite as one in a time of repair. We build and we will rise, black and white, all races and faiths, to a new way, a new day. As the marches fade, our work begins. Bless us, God. Work through us. Teach us to lead with love. Help us to turn our helplessness into actions that will heal our nation. Shield us from indifference and despair and our tendency to forget. Fill us with strength and hope and the perseverance to make lasting change. In memory of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and the countless souls whose blood cries out from the ground in their memory and in their honor, we take this pledge. I am my brother's keeper. Amen. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be love. 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 Let's read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions,
to live with hope in our hearts
and
eternity in our thoughts,
that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Blessed One, you spread over us a canopy of peace, a shelter of shalom over all Israel, your people, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukkot shalom aleinu ועל כל עם ישראל ועל ירושלים. Shalom, 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 shalom. Let there be peace. 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 We continue with the healing prayer, the words of the Mishaberach. Many of you have written in with names for people that we can pray together for a community for healing. The names on the list behind me or at the bottom of your screens have been submitted by the community. We pray together for their healing. Mishaberach, Avotenu v'Imotenu Abraham, Yitzhak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, grant healing, refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf, refuat shlema, a healing of body, a healing of spirit, a whole and complete healing for all those in need. We think tonight as well about Nancy Drexler, Basha Stein, Teresa Navis, Leo Fenstein, Carl Eckstein, Craig Karadakis, Yetta Christensen, Stephanie Maines, Adele Brass, Michael Galanis, Sylvia Joan Heyman, Alejandro Pinto, Henry Fisher, Cass Nelson, Carol Hahn, Richard Shaffritz. And Amy Russell.
The last thing that any of us wants to do is to watch a board meeting on Zoom. And that was my attitude when I received an email yesterday about the school board of Palm Beach County and a 9-minute speech that was not really a speech by the head, the superintendent of the school board, Dr. Fenoy. And I started to watch it, and I really didn't want to, but I met Dr. Fenoy, and he's an impressive man. Self-confident, very eloquent, looks like one of the great leaders of our community. I gave it a minute, and at that point I realized that I'm not going to give a sermon tonight because I want all of you to listen to Dr. Fenoy, because if his message cannot stir your hearts, cannot let us start to understand what it means to be a black or brown person in this country, nothing will.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to the community. I felt like it was absolutely important for me. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to the community. I felt like it was absolutely important for me to make comments today prior to the start of the board meeting in reference to the killing of Mr. George Floyd. And as over the last 2 weeks, as I have processed this reality, it has become clear to me that in my role as the superintendent of the 10th largest school district in the country, there are certain responsibilities that I bear to be a catalyst for change. But I also believe that in this moment, I, for the first time in my career, need to be fully honest around my experiences as a Black man in America, especially with the reality of the duality that I possess, meaning walking in multiple worlds. For me, I am a highly accomplished, very successful young Black man. My sisters do not enjoy the same privileges that I have, and so I want to just talk about the realities of who I am through my experience as a father. And so I can tell you right now that I am hurt. I am devastated. I am scared. I am a lot of things that I really have never really articulated. But this community was first introduced to me. Well, I purposely introduced myself to this community through the lens of my child, my son, Donald Everett Fenoy III, who many of you saw hold the Bible when I was sworn in after this board took a chance on me. But what you don't know about me are all the decisions that I live with daily as it relates to raising this young man who's getting bigger and bigger every single day. And I think the journey to help people understand why this is so traumatic. So being who I have not always been this well-polished, suit-wearing person. I was a child like everyone else. And as a child, you make mistakes and you grow up. Things happen. Unfortunately, based on generational issues, I was taught to endure certain things and just push forward. But now I'm at a place where something more must happen. Other day, Bob Hatcher, one of our amazing principals, was on a call with me, and he said, Dr. Fenoy, the other day when you came by my house, you brought your son. He was cooking some food, and he said, when Mr. Floyd's situation occurred, he was talking to his children, and his thought was, how is Dr. Fenoy going to talk to his son about the killing of George Floyd? First of all, I was proud of him for even acknowledging that my conversation will be different. But let me say this, what you don't know is that this is a constant, continuous, for the 11 years since the day he was born, worrying about him. So being a privileged man, I have taken the choice to protect my children as much as I can from the very harsh realities of this world. I bought a home considering simple facts. So let me share this with you, and bear with me. Every day I ask my son to go to the mailbox, either ride his bike or I take him up there. And I sit in the car with him and I say, Donald, when you go to that mailbox, because in our neighborhood, it's in a central location, it's not at our homes. I say, I need you to be respectful. I need you to speak to people. I need you to open doors. So the vast majority of American society would say those are good things that you should teach your children. But what I never shared with him, and I'm sharing for the first time, is not just because I want him to be polite and have pleasing behaviors that make everyone else comfortable. Honestly, it's so that when he walks around my neighborhood by himself, someone will not call the police on him because he doesn't look like he belongs there. People will identify him as someone who belongs in that community so that I can have some sort of peace to know that he can go ride his bike and someone will see this boy who they've seen repeatedly and they won't be afraid. Because I did not want my children to grow up in a world like I do, which I'm a big man, I'm an overweight man. And so the fact that every morning when I get up to go outside and walk, I'm conscious of, do I wear a hoodie sweatshirt because it's dark outside? And I might walk up on my neighbors who are walking and they don't recognize me and they call the police. Or people get scared of me because I'm 6'4" and black and I don't have my suit on. And maybe you saw the tattoo on my leg. I don't know, but I live in constant fear of offending other people or triggering something in other people to call the police on me. You know, I'm not going to go into the details around the instances that I've been in the course of my life. You know, my mother reminds me of those things, and that's for another day. But today, I realized something very powerful. So in this protection of my child, again, we're all dealing with distance learning. And so he's been immersed in that world. He's also from a different generation. When he watches television, he watches what he wants to watch. And so does my 4-year-old daughter. So they hadn't been paying attention to George Floyd. So I made him do that earlier this week. And we talked right before this meeting. He was here in my office. And I said, Donald, what do you think? Because we've never had this conversation. And he said, well, the first thing I thought was, what would we do as a family if you are killed? And what am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that? He also went on to talk about all the other men in our family. But here's the thing that I find powerful about his statement. He said, I hope people like you in power don't abuse your power. I hope people like you in power make changes for the better. And you know what I said to him? So that I began to explain to him why I'm so hard on him about being respectful. Because you know what, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I want the most? I want my child to survive the encounter. I want him to come home so that if something happens, I can call the attorneys. I can call my friends at the sheriff's office or my own chief. But even that statement alone is chock filled with so much privilege because there's so many other people that don't have the opportunity to call the sheriff or contact an attorney. And so even that's what makes me feel so torn at times because I do want my child to survive the encounter and come home. And so for me, in this position of power, I have this intense obligation, and I think all of us do. And so for every parent out there, for every person who is struggling, every white person who wants to know how I fix this, how I help, I feel like I'm taking a chance today for the first time in my career, sharing with people publicly how I live my life outside of the image that I allow you to see. And so I say, as we move forward, that this particular district has thanks to many of our board members, Dr. Robertson in particular, has fought the good fight for a long time. But there comes a point where you have to start doing something. And so I'm committed as a superintendent to doing something. And we will work through that. But I just want everyone to know that there are a lot of people like me that are not okay. They're just not. And I think I want to give people who look like me the permission to at least say that for once in their life, to literally have an honest conversation around your fears and your anxieties. Someone like me is always being charged with being strong for everyone. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not strong. I can't be strong 24 hours a day, and neither can you. And so I hope that we don't just take this as another dead Black man in America and move on with our lives. I hope, to our students that are out there peacefully protesting, I need you to survive the encounter. I need you to come home. I will never endorse breaking laws and destroying property. But to our children, I understand. We raised them to live in this utopian world where we all get along. But I don't know if I know the adults in this country have not lived up to that promise. And so I challenge all of us to figure this thing out, push, be courageous, and hopefully put our children in a better position to do better than us. And so I just appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, and the entire board, for you believing in me, supporting me. But I do want you to know that daily, in spite of my position, my power, my privilege, I do operate in this world as a scared human being. Thank you, Mr. Barbier.
I think it's a very powerful message. Just to remind you, he's not an actor, he's not a celebrity, he's not a pandit. He's one of us, he's our neighbor, he's part of our community. So thank you for listening, because tonight is the night of listening. We'll meet again in a few days to talk.
Coming down and down and down. Life is going round and round and round. Love, it will be found and found and found. It's all inside of shine is like as if to wish upon a star. I'm so glad to see you. Oh, moon of mine, night is time for love and wonder spread across the sky. What would we do without you? The walls are coming down and down and down, and life is going round and round and round, and love, it will be found and found and found. It's all inside of you, all inside. Walls are coming down and down and down, and life is going going round and round and round. And love, it will be found and found and found. It's all inside of you. Oh, friend of mine, eyes that shine and help me feel that I am not alone. How can I ever thank you? Oh, friend of mine, space nor time will break the bond that holds my heart with yours. I'll always love you. The walls keep coming down and down and down. Life keeps going round and round and round. And love, it's always found and found and found. It's all inside of you. All inside of you. All inside of you. All inside of you.
We begin to conclude our service with the words of Aleinu.
On the occasion of Yortzeit, to remember today Rosalind Friedman, mother of Phyllis, Henry Dwork, father of Tom, Harry Finkel, father of Nathan, Pearl Andelman, mother of Marcia, Beatrice Yerkes, mother of Susan, Seymour Plosky, brother of Lori, May Gerstein, mother of Ed, Chaya Cole Mendelssohn, mother of Esther, and grandmother of Herbert and Cindy, Chris and Eileen and Deborah, and great-grandmother of Tamara, Matthew, Casey, Jaslyn, and Michelle. Iris Hauser, mother of Paul, Carol Lichterman, mother of Jeff, Marcia Stein Lissauer, wife of Fred, Shirley Harris, grandmother of Karen, Harry Bogner, grandfather of Amy, Fanny Prigoff, mother-in-law of Marian, Hammond Zecker, father of Joan, Mark Handel, brother of Robin, Elizabeth Goldstein, grandmother of Jana, Meyer Tenenbaum, father of Jack, Renata Colombo Trevis, mother of Vivian. Robert Feinberg, brother of Leona. On the occasion of Shloshim, the month of mourning, remember today Irving Brothman, husband of Luann and father of Ashley. Mort Wapner, husband of Eleanor. Jason Wagner, husband of Jill and brother-in-law of Michelle, father of Tamar, Eli, and Michaela. Lola Turner, Fred, friend of Carol Levine. Jack Weber, grandfather of Jeff. Dolores Circus Stein, mother of Rhonda, Paula, and Jeff. During the week of mourning, the Shiva remember Rhoda Bell, mother of Robin Schaffler, Marcy Debs, mother of Howard. Are there more names? We're saying the words of the Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דברה חירותי והמליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בזמן קריב עמו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה. וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Can you play the guitar, hold the challah, do everything at the same time? Oh.
המוציא לחם מן הארץ. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Did you make it?
No,
Oh, it doesn't look like a public challah.
it looks beautiful.
Yes. Oh well, we'll have to
Tavon.
try it. Tavon. Wow, 68 minutes, as we had predicted.
עושה שלום במרומיו
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us tonight. Discuss on Tuesday at 6. Please email them to me. I'm not sure that I'll be able to discuss everything, but it's good to get some suggestions. In the meanwhile, we have a lot of listening and thinking to do. Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful week.